Welcome, everybody, to Empowering Pastors and Leaders. We're excited that you're here today. We're picking up the training that we started a few weeks ago on momentum. And momentum is something that is not only measurable by results, but it's measurable by feeling. You can actually feel momentum. You can actually experience it as something that you can identify when you're around it. When you feel the lack of momentum, you can actually feel the grinding, literal grinding of the process. And so we want to make sure that we are all in momentum. Every single leader, every single department, every single pastor, that there is a momentum that flows with your ministry and your business. Momentum means you're going to gain money faster. Because as a flywheel flows, what happens is if you take a big flywheel, it starts to move slowly. If you never start getting it moving, then don't worry, you're going nowhere. But all of a sudden, when you start to move, everyone gets upset because it's not moving quick enough. But remember, never despise small beginnings. And so everything starts slow. But after a while, once you turn the corner, it starts to pick up speed. And then all of a sudden, it's not as much work any longer. It's actually working itself. And that's the goal of momentum. Momentum is not that you have to plow the rest of your life, as we covered in the last session, but that you'll be a person that will get things flowing, and now it's working for you instead of you working for it. The challenge with the momentum is keeping it going. Because a lot of people get in routines. Now, routines aren't bad. We all have routines. How many of you brushed your teeth this morning? I'm watching for those who did not. We don't want to get around them. Amen. Anybody shower this morning? Showered this morning. Okay, stay away. Oh. How many of you, you went to the bathroom today? You have a routine in the bathroom. Have you ever noticed you actually have a routine when you get out of the shower or out of the bathtub, how you dry off? Yeah. You actually have a routine even for that. How many of you, when you start brushing on your right side or your left side of your mouth? What is it, right or left? Right? You start on the bottom, right bottom? Where does somebody else start? Left? Top bottom? Right top? See, everybody's different, but these are all routines. And routines aren't bad, routines are good. You know, what we're striving always to do is get moms and dads, who are always the problem, let's be real. The leaders in the home is always leading the issue. And that is, we're trying to get leaders, moms and dads, to create a routine for their kids to be in church. When I was a youth pastor, one of the hardest things to get the kids into youth ministry was not the youth. It was the parents. Getting the parents to create, they would say to me, well, I don't have time. Well, that's all right. You've created a routine for your kid. No matter what you've created, you've still created a routine. So routines are important, but yet what happens is if you get delved into a routine so deep, you can actually miss momentum. Routines are important. Cycles are important. But if you're in a cycle too long, you can actually create a rut. What is a rut? Well, if you've ever been out in a vehicle and you've gone through wet property, your tires literally roll back the dirt and you create what's called a rut. And then once it dries out, getting out of that rut can be very challenging. Sometimes when you get stuck, you just start gassing it and you dig a deep hole or a deep rut. And you have to actually get someone to pull you out. Well, you were going good until you got into the mud, and once you got into the mud, which we would equate to having problems, because no matter where you are, you're always going to have issues. And the issues with momentum is that if you're not paying attention, you're not preparing yourself, or you're not aware, then you're going to go into a muddy situation and it's going to slow the momentum. And if you're not prepared for it, it literally can get you stuck. And there are a lot of churches, there are a lot of ministries, there are a lot of departments, there are a lot of companies that started right but got stuck. they lost momentum, never were able to regain momentum, and therefore now they're closed. That is the key. The key is not that you're not going to have trouble. The key is being prepared before you get into trouble, because if you're not prepared, then you're going to lose momentum. Here's the problem with losing momentum. If you're aware and you've lost momentum, what do you have to do? You have to start momentum again, which means you have to do what? You have to work. You have to work harder to start momentum. You got to get that flywheel going again. So if you're aware, then what ends up happening is, it's not that you're not going to hit mud. It's not that you're not going to have ruts. The issue is you don't need to lose momentum if you prepared for the rut that's going to come. The preparation can not only be for the success that's in front of you, the preparation also has to be with an awareness that you are going to hit mud, that you are going to have trouble. So what are you going to do? Well, you're either not going to be prepared and you're going to dig yourself a hole. Now you got to get pulled out. Now you got to restart momentum, which means now what you already did all the way back here now has to be restarted up here. What a waste of time. Or you're going to be in awareness and say, listen, when I go into the mud, I am not going to put my foot to the pedal. I'm going to inch my way out if I've got to, because I don't want the car to stop. So there has to be an understanding. Routines are very important, but yet routines that stop momentum or slow momentum must be changed. So if you're a routine person, and many people are routine people, they like to sleep on the same side of the bed. They like to use a specific toilet. They want the toilet, oh, here's the question for you. Toilet paper roll over the top or under the bottom? Top? Any bottoms? Top? So here's the issue. Here's the issue. If you waste more if you go from the bottom or the top? Statistically, you lose more toilet paper if you pull from the bottom. That's why the toilet paper brands pushed it to grab from the bottom. So the question is, if you have a routine, you're pulling the toilet paper from the bottom, but yet it's going to cost you more money at the end of the year, many people will keep doing that because that's their routine. So the question isn't that we have routines. The question is, are you willing to break the routine to keep the momentum going? Most people will say yes, but live no. How many of you want a greater relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ? Truthfully, no. Most of you don't. Why? Because you have to break the routine. You have to break the routine of sleeping in so long that you don't have time to pray. So everyone says they want routine or wants momentum. They say they want to progress. They say they want to have greater results. But truthfully, we don't want greater results because we'd rather live in the routine than break the routine to keep the momentum flowing. So we have to be honest with ourselves, and that really is the greater issue, is honesty. Being honest with ourselves on whether or not we actually do want to break the routine and get out of the rut, or do we want to just stay where we are and ultimately live a substandard successful lifestyle? Most would rather live a substandard successful lifestyle. Give you an example. I know I've given it before, but it bothers me. It will always bother me. And if this is you, I apologize. I don't mean to be demeaning, a little bit. But the people that are at the booth collecting the money at the airport, I don't understand. When you leave the parking lot, you got to pay the bill. I don't understand the people that are in that box. You're in a box. You're looking at a tag and collecting money. Where are you going? You're in a box. You're never getting out of that box. Why did you go into the box? Well, some people, because it's a routine. They know they can control their environment. They know that if they're in their box, they're safe. They know that the worst thing that could happen is someone's credit card is denied. Maybe someone will break through the stop station where the arm comes down there, break the arm. That's the worst thing that could happen. They control their world. If you're going to be a person of momentum, it means it's taking you to places you've never been before. So if you've never been to a place before, that is demanding that you're going to have to be a person of faith. Now, when we start talking about faith, we always think about Christians. But there are people that are not born-again people that live more in faith than Christians live in faith. They're willing to take more opportunity and chances and step out on nothing to land on something than some believers, because the believers would rather stay in the routine and the rut than they would rather than create a momentum that will take them to a place that they've never been before. So you've got to ask yourself and be real with yourself. Would you rather live in routine that is going to always apprehend and keep you in a box, or would you rather be an individual that's going to live in momentum, yet live where you've never lived before? Because momentum is always going to take you to a place you've never been. But that means you've got to learn how to trust God. That means you've got to be willing to make mistakes. That means you've got to be willing to get into some mud. That means you've got to be willing to step out on nothing to land on something. So momentum, which most people do not have. They don't have momentum in their marriage. They don't have a momentum with their friends. Start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. They don't have a relationship in their businesses. Start, stop, start, fail. What's the percentage? I forget. It was over 80%, I believe, that fail within the first year. First 2 years. Over 80% of businesses fail within the first 2 years. Well, why is that? Is it that their idea wasn't good? No, it's usually leadership. And if you study the leadership, it's usually that they would rather, listen now, there's a book, I keep forgetting the name of this book, but I read it over a decade ago, and it was people that love to make pies, they start a pie company. Well, they love making pies, but then they realize that when you open a pie company, you're no longer just making pies, now you got to do the business part of the pies. So they liked the pies, but they didn't like the business side, so they closed their company, so nobody gets the pie. Momentum. Where are you in momentum? If you had to say that you're moving, where are you going? If you have to say right now that you have movement in your life, what area of your life actually has some level of momentum in it? Here's your homework. We haven't done homework in a long time. For those who don't know, it's a $25 fine if you don't do your homework. My PayPal account is pastorspencer@gmail.com. I do take cash. You could also cash app me at $ Pastor, capital P, Pastor, capital S, Spencer. I take it all. And but if I'm doing the work to train you and you're not going to do your homework, then you owe me, because I should be charging you for this class. So, your homework, I want you to write me and send it to Pastor Spencer at iCloud.com, where your life is in momentum, and if not, why? Then, what are you going to do to change it? One more time. You can send your homework to Pastor Spencer at iCloud.com. I want you to write down, is your life in momentum? If not, why? And what are you going to do to begin? If you have no plan, then don't worry, it will never happen. If you never start putting the water on the water wheel, don't worry. Even though it will start slow, it will at least start, and then will gain momentum. And then will produce its own energy to be able to take care of not just the one who's in the house, but even the people around the house and keep the company rolling. So the question is that where are you in momentum? So if you're not in momentum, you're in routine. If you're in routine, then you're in a rut. If you're in a rut, well, then you're going nowhere. And you can blame your mama, you can blame your daddy, you can blame the economy, you can blame the president, you can blame the pastor, you can blame your wife, you can blame your mother, you can blame your children, you can blame your shoes, you can blame your bed, you can blame the TV, you can blame Elmira, you can blame anything you want to blame. There is no blame to be laid but that at the feet of the one who refuses to keep momentum going or even start it. Remember, where you are doesn't really matter. It's what you produce that matters. Will your life at the end have production, or will you just be a person that survived on the planet? I was talking, and I was so blessed. I sat with Pastor Andrea yesterday. She is a brilliant woman, and I sat with her yesterday, and she was talking about in 9th grade, a bunch of her friends got together at lunch, and they just decided that they were going to push each other on their life goals. And one of them was to be, the class president, and then another one was to be a general in the army. Another one was this, another one was this. She said every one of them, because they pushed, one guy, the one who wanted to be ROTC was a little heavy. So they all went and ran with him until he lost the weight that he needed to lose. But every one of them, she said, fulfilled the goals that they had in 9th grade. That guy who wanted to be a general became a general. How is that possible? Well, because you have to start somewhere. And they started the flywheel moving. They started the momentum. And then as life progressed, they accomplished their goals. You will never, ever create momentum if you have no goals in your life. So let's say you started, you've got momentum, and this is every ministry, every company, every individual, you hit the mud. And you see momentum slowing down. You feel momentum slowing down. You then have to be honest with yourself. Don't avoid the truth. Don't avoid the fact that you're not moving. Don't avoid the fact that the tires are starting to slip. Don't avoid the fact, address the fact. Because you will never get through the rut unless you're paying attention. So here we are. What do you got to do? Here's some basics. Number one, you got to identify the obstacle. What slowed me down? Well, I got into some mud with my vehicle. What used to be a hard pack was now just mud, and when I drove through it, literally just divided it, just like water. Okay, that's the obstacle. Well, the question is, if it doesn't dry out, well, then you're going to hit that obstacle again. What are you going to do? You can't always know you're going to hit obstacle. How do you say? You always know you're going to hit obstacles. You don't always know what the obstacles are. So sometimes, no matter how prepared you are, you're still going to lose a level of momentum. That's not the issue. The issue is how quickly you can identify the issue and then generate a plan to get through that issue so that if it comes again, you're already prepared for it. In my premarital counseling, one of the things I do is I talk about two main reasons for divorce. The two main reasons for divorce is sex and money. So I talk in my premarital class a lot about money and sex. I give a lot of details, I ask a lot of questions, and I don't want the answers from the couple. I want them to go talk about it. Why? Well, because I don't need to know your answers. But it's not that the stuff isn't going to hit the fan. But when it hits the fan, if you have no foundation for it, you're not only going to lose momentum, you're going to stop. So there has to be that preparatory. What things can you identify that can occur that will slow momentum in your ministry, in your life, in your church, or in your company? What are they? There are some basics for church. Let's talk about church. You have staff transitions. A staff transition can slow down momentum in that department. If it's not prepared for, we're having one now. We're having a staff transition now. And this staff transition that's happening, if it's not prepared properly, then it will literally clog the hole. It's going to cause a problem. So we've watched and identified obstacles, and we've looked at it, and we know that the transition is going to be phenomenal. How do we know that? Because we planned for it. We saw the obstacle, identified the obstacle, got things to override the obstacle, so that even though you'll hit a little mud, you're going to always hit mud. It doesn't have to stop you. You've got to have a plan. You've got to be willing to identify the real issues that are going to slow you down. If you can't identify them, then you're always reacting instead of acting. The moment you become a reactor, you no longer are in the driver's seat. The moment you become a reactor, what is now controlling your life are the circumstances that are coming. And if you allow circumstances to dictate your life, you will never be in momentum. Let me show you what it's going to be like. Have you ever driven on ice before? You can go, you can drive, and all of a sudden you hit a patch of black ice, and your car starts to slide out on its rear end. I remember I used to drive school bus. I remember one time I was driving school bus on Brown Road in Newfield, New York, going up a hill, and then I went down the other side. Down the other side was all ice, and I looked over to my side, and there was the rear end of the bus. I could actually see the rear end of the bus. It was a little startling. I worked really hard to get the momentum in the right direction, because when the rear end is directing, you always see a lot of crap. If you're not moving and in control, then you are out of control. And if you're a reactor, you're always out of control. You must be an actor, not a reactor. Number 2, draw from prototypes. You got to go talk to people. I found that majority, and I can only talk about pastors, many pastors and leaders don't have a mentor. They don't have somebody they're willing to go to and talk with. I don't know if it's pride, arrogance. They think they know it all. Maybe the Bible says that in the counsel of many there's wisdom. I found many years ago, and even today, I'm not novice. I'm over 35 years of ministry. But I still don't make major decisions until I go to the bishop, and I'll talk to 2 other pastors that are influential and have already gone through the stuff. I don't ever make decisions like that. I remember one individual told me once, he was on staff, and he said, I don't know why you talk to anybody else. I'm here. It's like, who are you? You've never been in ministry before. I'm going to talk to the bishop. I'm going to talk to Brother Ted. I'm going to talk to this one. I'm going to talk to that one. I'm going to talk to a council of many who have already been through. Listen, you've got to be willing, if you're starting to identify the obstacles, you're starting to identify what's slowing your momentum down, you've got to go after people that have already been there, that have gotten through that, because why in the world would you want to recreate the wheel? Frank Damasio was a phenomenal voice in my life for 1.5 years. I was talking about our church, and there are certain pinpoints that his tabernacle seems to lose momentum. And for a year and a half, he and I just hashed through things and worked through things. And let me tell you something. When we went into COVID, we went in go. We were moving. Thank God for momentum. When many churches stopped, closed, momentum ceased. They struggled reigniting the fire. People ask me, how in the world did you get back to I think we were at 65% within just a few months or a little bit more, and now I think we're back at 85 or 90% of return, where many churches are still not back even half. How is that? Because I did not stop the momentum that we had going in, even though the mud started to get us to spin. So you got to be willing to talk to people. You got to connect with visionaries, people that can see beyond where you can see. I remember I had, one time I hired a guy to come in out of Florida and to evaluate our church. We paid him a lot of money. He came in and nobody knew him. He was a guest. And he went in and he evaluated our church. Now, he also worked for Daddy Osteen. So he did the same kind of thing for John Osteen's seniors church and for some mega churches. So coming here, he did it as a friend because we were at the school at that point and still kind of small. But he came in and he evaluated the church. And what was very interesting as a visionary, because he was actually active in mega churches, to come to a church that I think at that point we were running maybe 300, he was able to sit back and in a school, pick up, pull down every single service. He was actually able to come in and say, you know what? I love this. And then he said this. He said, the churches I work with in the South would never be able to do what you do up here. It was so interesting seeing the vision between the two and then being able to say, okay, so for us to not lose momentum from moving from the school, come on now, to moving to the tent. We didn't even know we were moving into a tent, but the tent was hot as hell. People were passing out in the tent. It was August and September. It was horrible. We lost 100 people in 1 month and a half. And that was before we could get into this building. And somebody said to me, Pastor, it looks like, we're in trouble. And I said, no, we're good. I said, we're not going to react to the people leaving. They left because of the heat, but they'll be back. And we're going to keep the momentum flowing. And man, when we stepped into this building, the first week in this building, I got photographs absolutely stacked full. So momentum, you have to make sure you're around people that can see what you can't see. You got to break free of dead weights. There are certain things you just got to get rid of. People don't like that. If you're a person that does not like confrontation, you shouldn't be a leader. Let me rephrase that. If you're a person not willing to do confrontation, you shouldn't be a leader. Because I don't like confrontation. It's not like, wow, I can't wait to butt heads with somebody today. But there are times you've got to. You've got to be willing to be confrontational. You can't get rid of dead weight if you're always ignoring it. I used to ride bicycle a lot. And one thing I learned was when you have a flat tire, the bicycle doesn't move the same way. So you have to not deny that you have a flat tire, but then you got to start the work. You identify, I've got an extra tube in the bag. I know how to take it off, or I can at least get on YouTube to figure it out. And then you got to change the tire. You got to get rid of the dead weight to get the air back in the tire to get the bicycle moving strong again. You've got to be willing to get rid of things, sometimes as people. You got to know that what got you here might not get you there. You got to know that there are some people that were loyal. and good people. They got you to a certain depth, but they're unwilling to change. They're unwilling to keep momentum in their own life. They're unwilling to advance in their own life. So therefore, there's only one thing you can do, and that is eliminate them. I didn't say throw them away. We don't throw people away. But you can't always keep people in the position they're at if they're unwilling to help generate momentum in it. Sometimes I repeat myself, but one of the stories that was really powerful was we had a minister in the church, and their ministry was doing awesome. And I said, I need to send you away to a conference. And the individual said, I'm not going. And I said, no, you don't understand. If all you have is what you're in, and you have no fresh water trickling, you will soon have a nasty, green, foul smell coming out. If all you know is what you know and you're not willing to advance in what you know, so I said to the person, I said, I need you to do that. And they said, no, I'm not going to a conference. I said, then we got a problem. And they said, well, then we have a problem. And they weren't here long. Why? Because even though the flywheel was cruising, I knew it could only cruise so long. Because once you start tethering yourself to dead weight means unmovable. Momentum means movement. Don't get secure where you're at. Don't get settled where you're at. Don't get lazy where you're at. Be willing to keep moving. I'm almost done. Fix your focus. Get a fresh grip. And the last one, you have to decide that giving up is not an option. Momentum demands a tenacity. It demands that no matter what you feel, no matter what you think, no matter how hard the trials are, no matter how deep the mud is, you are not going to stop. The problem with the majority of ministries that have failed, ministers that have failed, departments that have failed, I don't know what it is, but at his tabernacle, it takes about a year to get traction for any ministry. I don't know why. And I've had people start a ministry and then they come to me after like 5 or 6 months and say, it's not working. It's not working. I said, be patient. Get some tenacity. Keep moving. The flywheel's starting to move. And if they remain about a year, for whatever reason, traction is gained, and now the ministry starts picking up speed. But not everybody's willing to do that. You've got to be a tenacious person to be a good leader. You've got to have this, I will never give up. They're going to have to drag me off. They're going to have to beat me with a stick, because I am not backing down for nobody. I'm here. I'm strong because greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I know this is where God has sent me, put me, placed me. I know that I have some trouble in front of me and I've lost the momentum. I know that it's difficult, but I don't care if it's difficult. I don't care what's in front of me. I am leaning into it because that's the only way to gain momentum. I'm stepping forward, even if it's only a quarter of a step at a time. Soon enough, I'll be able to take a stride. Soon enough, I'll be galloping. Soon enough, I'll be running again. But the people that don't are those who are willing to step back and give up. You will never, ever, ever keep anything happening in your life if you do not get a tenacious spirit that says, I am never giving up. You want to know why? Because there's always a fresh idea. I had a mentor used to say this to me, you are one thought away from being a millionaire. And that's true. Take the Bible. See this little thing right here? Whoever created that is a millionaire. Instead of sticking a piece of paper in, they got a nice little piece of material. Ready? A staple. Whoever created staples are millionaires. What do you got on your wrist? Yeah, you. Can I have one? It's just rubber, right? Is that all it is? No. Look at that. Help is on the way. See that? Millionaire. The writing? A millionaire. Anybody got glasses? See the screw? Millionaire. See the little bridge? Millionaire. Anybody got shoes? Laces. Whoever makes laces is a millionaire. Got slip-ons? Millionaires. It's amazing to me that we always complain because when you get in a rut, the number one reaction is complaining and blaming. Rather than getting a tenacious spirit and saying, somebody else has already succeeded, I will succeed, and with God on my side, I can't fail. Even though my momentum has slowed, I am not going to let it stop. That is your choice. And I challenge you. Don't worry about momentum if you have no vision. Don't worry about momentum if you have no movement in your life. All you have is routines. When your routine stops forward motion, it is no longer a routine, it is a battle axe. It is a weight. It is now your enemy for success. So my question is, where are you in your ministry? Where are you in your business? Where are you in your marriage? Where are you in your life? Where are you in your vision? I don't care if you're young or old. Do you know there are kids that are 5, 10 years old that are millionaires? They went out and they started a business. There was a little boy named Little David. Remember Little David? The preacher Little David. 5 years old. He was preaching major conferences all over the world. All over the world. He's very old now, if not passed on. But at 5 years old, he was holding 10 revivals. Stop using excuses. Momentum can only stop when you stop having vision and stop willing to be a person of a tenacious spirit. You've got to keep moving. Rhonda used to always say, a body that is in motion tends to stay in motion. Get up, dress up, show up, and never give up. That was her life. That's what she lived. And that's what she died. Today, she's still up. But let me tell you, there are days she stood on that altar where she could not stand up. And she still stood up. If someone can do that and that's just physical, what can we do with the rest of our lives? We're still here. Don't waste your life. Learn to live in momentum, and you will always enjoy success, even when you hit the mud. Questions? Yes. Well, we have Steve coming for that.
What fuels a tenacious spirit?
What fuels a tenacious spirit? Number one, it's a decision. You have to make a choice in your own self. The greatest disembarking of a tenacious spirit is a person who's willing to give themselves an excuse. The moment you start using excuses, tenacity leaves. So being tenacious means you have to feed yourself. For myself, I get around successful people. If they can do it, I can do it. I've watched some televangelists. They're horrible. They can't preach themselves out of a bag. And I sat back and I said, if they can do it, I can do it. So being tenacious is a self-decision that I refuse to allow my life to have an excuse, no matter what the cost. I'd rather die with a tenacious spirit than live in passivity. Question? Anybody online? Anybody online got a question? Very good. Thank you so much for participating with the Empowering Pastors and Leaders training this week. This was part 2 of Momentum. You can go back to our YouTube page and Empowering Pastors. And we have training that goes all the way back 6-7 years. And I think that you would be able to be blessed. If you're online, you can watch or go to our website, empoweringpastors.com. We do conferences. We also do individual training and coaching for pastors and leaders and business individuals. We just want to be able to be there for you, to press you to a place of God's greatness for your life. Thank you all so much. Niall, I love you. And have a great night, great day. I said night because it's night for Niall. And he's in South Africa. And so I just want to say thank you for participating with us. Enjoy your day.